Now, I'm not sure whether I should have gotten an S10, a K20 Pro, a P30 Pro. The question is, will you be using your phone to its full value? Or could you simply just get away with a mid-tier phone? This Galaxy A70 looked pretty promising to me, so let's go on this little journey. Okay, at the first glance on paper, the A70, it looks like quite a catch. The first thing you're gonna take notice of is the display. It has a 6.7 inch, which is quite big. Yeah, which is rather big, especially if you have small hands. Not a problem for me because I have pretty large hands. This is one beautiful display. It's Super AMOLED Samsung Infinity U display, so the colors are quite striking. The screen is quite bright and you could definitely use it outside in direct sunlight. It is almost bezel-less except for the water drop notch at the top. I've used this phone quite extensively over the last week just to get a feel of what it's like. And it has a 4,500 mAh battery, and with a fully juiced phone at early in the morning, by the time I came back home and plugged it back in, time to rejuice it, I still had about 60% of battery, and that is with heavy use throughout the day, so definitely 2 thumbs up on the battery life here. What's even more impressive is the charging time. It's not as fast as a OnePlus 7 Pro, but it's decent. It's a 25 watt supercharge, and from 0% up to 70% took about 1 hour. Now all this takes place through a USB-C connector. Now this is not NFS as on the S10. We have to remember this is a mid-tier phone, so it's definitely going to be missing out some of those flagship qualities. Next to the USB port is a headphone jack, which is very welcome by me and many other DJs or general people, or people who just don't like that little bit of delay when you use a Bluetooth headset. I don't know, that's just me. The A70 comes with a Snapdragon 675, which is a bit of a dated chipset, but mid-tier phone again, you're really not gonna get a Snapdragon 845 or 855 maybe pushing it. But I definitely didn't feel any lag in the performance of this chipset. The version that I got came with 6GB of RAM, and there's also 8GB variant available. Space-wise, there's also a 128GB version available, as well as 256 and 512. One feature that I really like about this phone is you can put in 2 SIM cards as well as an SD card, and the SD card is capable of handling an additional 1TB of storage. Now the phone comes shipped with Android 9 Pie with Samsung One UI on top of it, and it's a pretty snappy experience. It's pretty close to a stock Android version, but there is a bit of Samsung's bloatware here and there. So in the A70, they've ditched the traditional fingerprint reader and gone for a face unlock, which works pretty well, but if the camera is a bit dirty, it doesn't always read you correctly the first time, so it needs a bit of a wipe up. And secondly, it comes with the under glass fingerprint scanner. I really like using the traditional fingerprint scanner as it would be really quick on other devices, but if you're blessed with sweaty hands like I am, the under glass fingerprint display is a nightmare. And this one is particularly slow, so I would definitely recommend using the face unlock feature as it works far quicker. The A70 is built pretty solid. You can tell that the phone is made out of plastic, what Samsung is calling glastic, which is a mix of plastic and glass. Glastic. Okay. And the front is glass. But you can tell it gives off a premium feel, and I think it looks pretty classy, especially with this coral prism effect on the back. I'm not really sure what it's called, but it also ships in black, blue and white. It feels pretty pristine in hand, and it feels pretty solid. It is a fingerprint magnet. Within a few seconds I had tons of fingerprints on the front and the back. Now I suggest getting a cover for this phone, but you're really gonna lose the feel of the texture, so you can choose to skin your phone, or you can get a big bulky cover like this, which will really protect your phone. Adding this cover adds some serious weight to the A70, and holding it for extended time periods, you're definitely gonna feel it on your hands. With no cover, the phone feels pretty okay to hold, but it is also pretty slippery to hold. When holding the phone in your hand, if you have small hands, it's going to be a bit of a reach to grab the power button each time. Just above the power button is the volume rocker. The front camera does take pretty decent images, like we can see here. However, sometimes in sunlight, I did feel that the pictures did come out a little bit too overexposed. Maybe everything seems just a bit too white. There is beautification modes if you're into that, and the camera also has a wide angle mode for getting more people into the picture. The front camera does shoot in 1080p, 30 frames a second. Going down some stairs. Last but not least, we'll take a look at the camera. It's a triple shooter 32 megapixel as the primary, an 8 megapixel 120 degree wide angle shooter, and the third camera is a 5 megapixel detail camera. This is for things such as depth of field or bokeh. It's the camera that separates you from the background, which gives you the blurry background and you chilling in the front. The A70 takes some pretty awesome photos. It has most of the usual stuff that smartphone cameras have these days, such as panorama, live focus, which gives you that blurry background again. There's also a pro mode where you can dial in your settings if you want that bit of an extra touch. There's a normal camera mode as well as the wide angle camera mode, which is 120 degrees field of view, which is pretty wide, and most people will want to use it all the time. However, if you do use the wide angle camera, you're gonna lose a bit of picture quality as it does use the 8 megapixel shooter. And in low light situations, you're not gonna get the best image quality. However, by using the normal main shooter, which is 32 megapixels, you're gonna get a much more detailed, crispier picture. And because it has a lower aperture on the main shooter, you're gonna be able to take much more clear pictures in the dark. Looking at the video modes for the rear camera. Now this phone does shoot in 4K on the rear shooter, 4K 24 frames per second. However, I did find it a bit laggy when shooting in 4K, but you can decide for yourself. And 1080p 60 did seem a lot smoother, but also picked up a lot more of the camera jitter. 1080p at 30 frames per second did seem a little bit more buttery smooth. There's also an option to shoot in wide angle. The wide angle did give the sort of jello effect at the ends. Well, you could use the wide angle if you're using to take a static video shot, but panning around just gives this wobbly jello effect that I'm not sure is supposed to happen, but maybe that could be fixed in a software update at some point. The camera also offers hyperlapse mode, super slow-mo, and slow motion. One of the camera modes that it does offer is Samsung's AI mode, which is Scene Optimizer. So it will automatically try and recommend the best settings for the environment that you are shooting in. The A70 does support HEVC video, which is high efficiency video, meaning it will give you a slightly compressed file in order for you to save file space and easier to work with the files. And so that concludes my video of the A70. Now, even though it does have a slower performance processor, the A70's processing power kept up quite well. I did notice in artificial intelligence, in apps like Face App, they slow down in performance. Out of the box, it does come with animation scaled, but by following these few simple steps, you are able to reduce your animations on the phone, giving you a much snappier experience. To improve your camera's performance in dark situations, try downloading the Google Pixel Camera app. This will give you a great improvement. It won't be fantastic, but it will be usable. And so that wraps up my review about the Galaxy A70. I'm pretty pleased with the A70. And if you're a person on a budget, then the A70 is definitely for you. Please check out my YouTube channel. It's the word 80, the number 6 TV. Until the next video, peace.